We'll see how that goes. We're going to begin this hour, though, with President Trump facing off with our European allies over Greenland. This morning, he spoke at the World Economic Forum in Davos after his flight was delayed due to an electrical issue with Air Force One. The president says the U.S. needs to own Greenland for national security reasons, saying the Arctic island is undefended and in a key location between the U.S., Russia, and China. He then demanded immediate negotiations to acquire the territory, saying he does not want to use force. Ed O'Keefe joins us from Davos with the latest. Ed, good morning again. I think a lot of people were relieved to hear him say he does not want to use force.
Perhaps relief that there'd be no military force, but they're certainly upset to hear that he is indeed pushing ahead with this. The White House promised it would be a decisively America First address, and it sure was. He mentioned the recent extraction of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, and then he pushed ahead, saying he wants negotiations to take over Greenland, arguing that because the U.S. defended it during World War II, it deserves to have it back for national security reasons. European leaders have been saying if the president pushes ahead with tariffs that would be put on allies that don't agree with this plan, they're going to have to potentially do it as well. We talked to the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, a good friend of the president, about Europe's concerns in this potential new tariff war. Take a listen.
The two sides will talk, and they will discuss it together. And ultimately, I think they will work out a solution, and diplomacy will prevail. However, Donald Trump has a clear understanding of his goals and objectives, and everybody will talk together and they will work it out or they won't. But I'm going to leave that to national security.
The Americans may think that there's an opportunity here to stick together and find ways to cooperate, but the Europeans really in recent days have expressed real anger, frustration with the United States, and are making plans to do something about it. The European Commission president, for example, boldly called for permanent independence from the United States and said tariffs from the president would risk plunging relations into a, quote, downward spiral. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney gave quite a speech warning that amid the disagreements over Greenland, the world is in the midst of a, quote, rupture, not a transition in global order. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer emphasized alliances are, quote, built on respect and partnership, not pressure. The president is expected to meet with the NATO Secretary General, and the White House tells us he's got at least 5 other formal one-on-one meetings planned with leaders, though they haven't indicated who exactly. And those meetings will come as the Europeans are talking openly about doing something they've never done before, implementing what they call bazooka tariffs, or about $100 billion in penalties that would be imposed on a country that is putting undue pressure on the European Union. Adriana,
all right,
we say this a lot, but we've never really quite been here before.
And yet here we are. Ed O'Keefe in Switzerland, thank you so much.